welcome to Still Speak Podcast. This is going to be an update video on a few of the cases I have recently made. We're going to start with another update on the Murdaugh case. There's been quite a few of those, my goodness. I made an update video on this case yesterday morning. It's Thursday evening, so Wednesday morning. If you've not seen that, go take a listen. And in that video, basically, I told you that Alex Murdaugh has admitted to planning his own death, even given the man that he hired, Curtis Edward Smith, the gun in which to shoot him with, and wanted the man to shoot him in the head. And that man, Curtis, was arrested, and he has a host of charges now filed against him. And the Hampton County Judge, Alexander, set bond for him today at $55,000. He was ordered to appear for a roll call on October 25th at the Hampton County Courthouse. He must obtain an attorney within 15 days or his bond will be revoked. The Colleton County Sheriff's Office said that Curtis had separate bond hearings yesterday for the meth charge and the marijuana charge, and then he was transferred to Hampton County custody yesterday afternoon. Alex actually represented Curtis as his attorney on at least 2 occasions dating back to 2010, according to court records from the Colleton County 14th Judicial Circuit. More has come out since then. Last night I got an alert that Alex Murdaugh had agreed to turn himself in today for the charges related to an insurance fraud scheme that he had planned so that his remaining son, Buster Murdaugh, could get a $10 million insurance payout from a policy that Alex recently took out, which is just insane. Alex Murdaugh had planned to voluntarily surrender at the Hampton County Jail today at 2 p.m. He ended up showing up at 11:30, and he had a bond hearing at 4 o'clock. His bail was set at $20,000, and he was charged with insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and filing a false police report. The attorney turned defendant now agreed to surrender his passport and waive any extradition. He'll be undergoing addiction treatment out of state. The prosecutor had tried to argue that he was a danger to the community, and they wanted his bail set at $100,000. And he said, quote, "While the charges here under the law are not violent, the underlying facts are violent," unquote. But Alex's lawyer basically argued that, he did this, but he put blame on the opiate addiction and then said, well, he's in treatment, so he's not a threat to, the community. And that the only person he's a danger to is himself. So there's that. And then SLED was asked about another investigation, which we're going to get to here in a second. Alex's lawyer in an interview had said that Alex decided to end his own life, but believed that his life insurance policy had a suicide exclusion, which some actually do. And since the death of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, which was his wife and son, SLED, who's handling their double homicide, recently announced that they were opening an investigation into the death of Stephen Smith, which was a 19-year-old male who was found dead in the middle of the road in 2015. That was rumored to be connected to the Murdaughs. It seemed like mostly through town gossip. SLED was going to be opening an investigation into his death. Now, there was an investigation, but it was with Highway Patrol in South Carolina. This is now SLED, which is the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division that I've told you about. I'm just reminding you what it stands for. And the reason why they're opening an investigation now into his death is because during their investigation for the double homicide of Maggie and Paul, evidence was uncovered in relation to Stephen Smith's death. I discussed Stephen's story in episode 2 of the Family Dynasty Murder Mystery. I shared some things from his case file. Well, it gets even crazier because SLED has now opened an investigation into the death of the Murdaugh's housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. Now, Alex had a wrongful death lawsuit against him for her death that was a slip and fall on his property. But now they're going to be taking a deeper look at it, to see if that was the case. And SLED said that it was opening the investigation because of a request from the Hampton County coroner that highlighted inconsistencies in the ruling of Satterfield's manner of death, as well as information gathered during SLED's other ongoing investigations involving the Murdaughs. Whew, what a web. What a web. Originally, it was said that Alex paid out to Gloria's family a settlement of $500,000 in 2018, just months prior to the boating accident that his son was involved in that resulted in the death of Mallory Beach, which I discussed thoroughly in episode 3 of the Murdaugh family. Well, slightly different information has come out. A lawsuit filed Wednesday on behalf of Satterfield's estate against Alex Murdaugh, the estate's former attorney, Corey Fleming, as well as Palm Meadow State Bank. And what happened was, following Gloria's death, her family trusted Murdaugh to help them to bring a lawsuit against himself on behalf of the estate. After Gloria had fell at their home, she was airlifted to a hospital, and she had a traumatic brain injury, and she was never able to communicate with her family for the next 3 weeks until she died. So it was Alex Murdaugh who told the story of that she had tripped and fell down the stairs over his dogs. Wow. So it's basically only off of Alex's words, and the coroner is basically saying that she didn't know that. So Alex walked the family of Gloria directly to his best friend and college roommate to bring a lawsuit against himself on behalf of the estate. That would be Corey Fleming. We also talk about Corey Fleming in episode 2 in relation to Stephen Smith's death. A number of claims were made, which all contributed to a settlement, but none of those settlements ever ended up in court except for one that was around $500,000 from Lloyd's of London Insurance. There were no court orders approving any of the settlements, and it's required under law, if you have a wrongful death or survival case, that a judge approve the settlements. None of that exists in the court record, and the family never found out that these cases had actually settled until it was printed in the paper by investigative reporters, which is really interesting to me because the media has ascended onto Hampton County, right? And they're digging into everything, all these court records, all these deaths, seeing how it's all connected to the Murdaugh family. And it sounds like when Paul and Maggie died, an investigator reporter uncovered this, and the family's like, what? These things were settled? How come we haven't seen any of it? Or heard about it, right? Because what happened is that the claims were settled for more than $2 million, but they never received any of it. And they didn't even know that it had been settled. So that's quite the twist. And this information about the fact that Gloria was airlifted and had a traumatic brain injury and that she couldn't communicate with her family, etc., that whole part right there, that's all new information. We actually didn't have any information on Gloria's death, and I did a video on Stevens, I did a video on Mallory's death, and I couldn't really do one on Gloria because we didn't have much information. This is still not much information, but it's more than what we had before. So, yeah, the Murdaugh's fall from grace is, wow, hell of a drop. The amount of people that have been affected by this is just mind-blowing. You got Stephen's family, you got Gloria's family, although I'm sure both those families are glad because now this investigation will help get them answers for their loved ones. Then you have Mallory Beach's family. They got to see Paul get charged, but they never got to see him go to trial for the death of their daughter because, well, he was dead now. And then you got Buster Murdaugh, who, lost his mother and his brother. Then a few days later, his grandfather. And now his dad is crumbling and fast. You have family and friends. And then you have law office partners and staff and co-workers in the 14th Judicial Court. And worst of all, he literally has now tarnished his entire family's name. That's been a prominent name in the Hampton County area for almost 100 years. All their hard work, he just destroyed that. My goodness, it's insane. It really is an unbelievable situation. I'm going to continue to bring you updates on this channel. If you go to the main page and you click playlist, I made a playlist of Murdaugh videos. That way, if you want to sit and listen to them and, one after another, you can easily do that. So now we're going to move on. The next case I was going to tell you about or an update on isn't really much of an update, but I still wanted to do it because I felt like it's been a while since I said anything about them. And I also want to get their video recirculating. And that is a video that I did about a month ago. It was like one of the second or third videos that I put up on this channel. And it was about two missing women. They're both 26 years old. They're both moms to multiple children, but they're from two different states, and they disappeared in mysterious ways, but in separate situations. And the ladies' names were Olivia Fowler of Georgia and Angelina Marie Fela of Port Richey, Florida. And there is no update, meaning these ladies are still missing. They don't know. They've been doing search parties trying to find her. They really haven't gotten much media coverage. I haven't really seen it anywhere. And like I said, they both disappeared under suspicious circumstances, including without shoes, phones, or purses. You can find that video on my channel. So please do me a favor for their family to go watch it, and then please share it, especially if you live in Florida or Georgia. Help the family out. If you live in their areas, I know both families have been looking for volunteers to help with their search parties. They've been doing them frequently. And in that video, I actually give you ways to contact them if you want to help them. I'm sure they would gladly accept your help. There's no updates either on another girl that I did a video about. I did hers about 2 weeks ago. She was a 16-year-old girl who basically took off with an older man, and she is obviously underage, and her name was Natalie Thibodeau, and she is still missing as far as I can see from when I went to go see if there was any updates on her case, which is really sad. So also please share her video and help her mom out. She is completely beside herself. Next update is on Khaleesi Cottrell. I shared her story just a few days ago on the same day, I believe, as Gabby. When I heard about it, I heard about both stories on the same day, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I needed to get their stories out right away. And this story is also very complex. It's very twisted, and it's really tragic. And it's a missing 3-year-old, and she was failed by so many people. And it's just horrible. She hasn't been seen since February, and so that's 7 months. And she was just recently reported missing. So that right there is just beyond words. And the people who had her in their care, who were not her parents, the other day had been arrested. One of them was Candy Royer, and she actually had been reported missing before Khaleesi was reported missing, and just by a few days. And it was actually found out to be that she had fled with her boyfriend Travis Brown, who was a fugitive and had like 15 charges against him after he had a incident with her. And I told you that they were arrested, right? And the little girl is still missing. I told you that the other day. More information has come out that the hotel the couple was staying at and where they were found was actually raided by marshals. According to the court documents, they had to break in the room because Brown and Royer were refusing to answer the door, and once they got inside, they found 29-year-old Brown and 31-year-old Royer, as well as what officials describe as multiple checks allegedly stolen in Virginia and 2 large rocks of meth. The only thing I have an issue with here is that the article that I was getting this from said that she's 31 years old. I'm not quite sure that's right, because I know that she has 2 adult children in addition to 4 other children, and her adult children have children. So she's a grandmother. I'm not quite sure you can pull off being a grandma at 31. I could have sworn she was 41, so I think they messed that up. And so it's not looking good. Okay, this little girl, she's 3 years old. Nobody on her biological mom's side knows where she is. The dad's side is saying they don't have her. Where is she then? Then you have this Candy and Travis. They don't have her because they're in jail. Where's the little girl? And why hasn't anybody seen her in 7 months? It's absolutely horrible. I mean, 7 months? 7 months? Seriously? Nobody was like, where'd that little girl go? Apparently, Candy told her family that the biological aunt came and took her, but even still, like, 7 months for anybody to be like, where's this kid? Like, anybody else? It's horrible. This story, like, gets me, like, it gets me heated. It really does, because at 3 years old, I mean, you can barely feed yourself, okay? Some are not even potty trained, and she's, just gone. 7 months, just poof. Nobody knows where she went. They know where she went. We all know that they know where she is, right? I think we all know that, and we all likely know that it's not going to have a good ending. I'm hoping not, but it's definitely looking that way. So big prayers that she's found. Let's share her video on my channel too, so that we can get her face out there. You never know. Somebody might have seen her with Candy and Travis at some point in the last 7 months, and that information could be passed on to police, and maybe it can help in some way. So on that note, I'm going to end here, and I'm going to actually start an update on Gabby Petito's case, and I'm going to go into speculation and talk about some things in relation to the case. And that's it for now. So I'll see you soon.